Who was Charlie Murphy? Well, he was an American actor, comedian, and writer. He was also the older brother of the famous comedian Eddie Murphy, which we've covered, by the way, in the previous doc. This being so, Charlie was still never lost in the shadow of his brother, and in his own right carved his own lane and made a name for himself. Although Charlie was known for many great things throughout his career, he was probably best remembered for his work in the comedy TV series Chappelle's Show, which aired on Comedy Central. Welcome to the second episode of The Genesis, where we cover the beginnings of everyone from famous actors and actresses, comedians, and musicians. Today in this episode, we'll be talking about Charlie Murphy. Throughout this doc, we will be finding out and answering what he was doing before he got famous. What movies was he part of? How protective was he of Eddie? And what run-ins did he have with two of the biggest rock stars ever, Rick James and Prince? Make sure to watch till the end to find out. Charles Quentin Murphy was born on the 12th of July in 1959 in Brooklyn, New York City. His mother, Lillian, worked as a telephone operator, while his father, Charles Edward Murphy, was a transit police officer and an amateur actor and comedian. Besides a younger brother, Eddie Murphy, Charlie had a half-brother, Vernon Lynch. Charlie was a troubled teen. He often shared about experimenting with drugs and having tons of fights. Once, Charlie even found himself with a gun held to his head in high school after a conflict with a classmate. According to his autobiography book, The Making of a Stand-Up Guy, Murphy received 3 years probation for robbing a driver at gunpoint. In the final year of probation, he was arrested for larceny, loitering, and other misdeeds. He was later sentenced to serve the rest of his probation, 10 months in county jail. However, after his release, Charlie surprisingly enlisted in the U.S. Navy. His mother dragged him to all of the armed forces recruitment offices on the day he got out of jail in 1978. However, they all turned him down after seeing his criminal record. The Navy finally agreed to take him after his mother pleaded, "Please take my son, or he's going to get killed out here." Charlie humbly served for 6 years as a boiler technician. Before he had his big break, Charlie was a screenwriter, a hip-hop manager, and also the head of security for his little brother, Eddie. Whilst working for Eddie, he was also known for being very overprotective of him. For instance, he grew to become very hot-headed when dealing with hecklers. He even went as far as saying in the early days when Eddie would perform, if you didn't laugh, then he would quote-unquote F you up. So aside from being a very funny man, Charlie was definitely not one to be messed with, especially when it came to his family. He later appeared in films including Jungle Fever, Night at the Museum, and Lottery Ticket. And then fame hit. Charlie gained massive fame for his appearance in the American comedy TV series Chappelle's Show in 2003. He was also a writer for the show. It ran on the Comedy Central network until 2006. Charlie had no shortage of notable moments on Dave Chappelle's Comedy Central sketch series. Still, perhaps one of the most memorable creations was Charlie Murphy's True Hollywood Stories. There, Murphy recounted his run-ins with celebs in the 1980s. Charlie, who wrote the sketches and also appeared in the show, told 2 Hollywood stories throughout the Chappelle Show's 3 seasons on air. One about the moment he met Rick James, and another about Prince. 2 more legends who unfortunately left us much too soon. In his first story, Murphy shared how he got to know Rick James, whom he called a habitual line stepper. Chappelle performed James in the reenactment, repeating the catchphrase, "I'm Rick James, bitch." James himself presented in the segment also, adding his own commentary. The story centers on what happened after James, then an acquaintance of Murphy, punched him in the face at Studio 54. James punched Charlie so hard he actually left a ring mark in his forehead that read Unity, which was one of Rick James's many hits at the time. Charlie wasn't impressed, to say the least. But there was another remarkable incident. This time, James, after receiving one of the many beatdowns Charlie gave him for overstepping the boundaries, came to Eddie Murphy's house looking for him, wearing dirty cowboy boots, and proceeded to flop on his new couch, rubbing the grime and dirt from his shoes all over the upholstery. What happened next? Well, either you know or you must watch for yourself. No spoilers. Let's just say it didn't end well for Rick. Also, there was the purple one, who Charlie said lured him and his friends away from an LA nightclub to his place one time to listen to some music. Although after a while, Prince got bored and proposed a pickup basketball game. Charlie agreed, laughing and thinking it would be the most effortless victory of his life. But Prince, surprisingly being quite a good basketball player, destroyed him with the help of his entourage, despite the fact they were still wearing their nightclub clothes. Prince did not come to the show to confirm if that was true, but the rock star did confirm the story, saying, "It's not because I'm that great, he's just that bad." Being that hilarious, Charlie Murphy didn't start a stand-up career until he was 42. He said, "When I first began doing comedy, I was 42 years old, and I was the older brother of one of the most famous comics in history who made his name in the game 20 years earlier. So that took a lot of bravery. It's never been done before. It's not a part of a human reality. It's as if Michael Jordan all of a sudden had a big brother who plays basketball, and he's good too. That does not compute for most people." Was Charlie envious of his little brother's success? In a 2009 interview with Essence, Charlie shared feelings about his relationship with Eddie. He said, "I never thought I was living in a shadow. My life was what it was. I'm always proud of my brother. He helped me a lot, but we're family, so I was never in his shadow." Besides appearing only positively after his teen years, Charlie had a controversial moment being a part of the Five Percenters. The group that called itself the Nation of Gods and Earth was founded in 1963 by Clarence 13X. The group stated that black people are the original people of the planet Earth, and that black people are the fathers and mothers of civilization. Charlie explained in an interview in 2009 how he removed himself from their influence. "I always questioned things. I had an analytical mind back then, and if you tell me something and state it to be the truth, I don't just accept it because you said it. And that's what I felt when I was part of the organization. Like, I was being told things, but the explanation beyond the explanation I was getting was not good." It's very sad to say, but Charlie Murphy tragically passed away being only 57 years old after a severe battle with leukemia. Murphy had been undergoing chemotherapy and bravely fought for a long time. Although Charlie had bad moments in his biography, he'll always be remembered as a great comedian, talented actor, devoted writer, father, and loyal brother. So what do you think about the star of our video, Charlie Murphy? What was some of your favorite memories of him? Share your opinion in the comments section. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss an upload. Stay tuned for the next doc. This is Genesis.